Good evening and welcome to The Pink 'Un Show Live, the dedicated Norwich City programme that has had a sporting director in position for weeks. His name is Dan Smith and he loves MMA and he has never seen a game of football in his life. Primed and ready to rock in the studio are my left-hand man, City legend Darren Eadie, alongcomenorwich.com co-creator Andy Lawn and budding sports journalist, as well as Norwich fan Dave Warman. And as I said at the top of the show, we are live, so get in touch with us right here in the studio on this very phone and ask us your questions, tell us your views by posting in the live chat on our YouTube feed or send us your tweets, including the handle @Pinkham. Before we get going with tonight, I just want to say we are, of course, aware of today's awful events in Westminster and all our thoughts are with the victims and families caught up in this terrible tragedy. Okay, let's start with the headlines in the world of Norwich City. Let's cash in. Strictly stoneballing. So, the search for a new chief exec and manager is over and we're not getting either. No, the new way forward sees Norwich bossed by new managing director Steve Stone and a new head coach with a new sporting director in between. Talk of the new structure got everyone giddy, but serenely dancing around all the questions was our very own Ed Balls, calling on all his politicians' know-how and not his BBC dance moves. The chairman loves a sure-footed, unflappable performance. Cha-ching! Take that! Lost in all the weekend hullabaloo at Carrow Road was a solid 2-0 win against Barnsley. That victory, combined with favourable results elsewhere, has left City just 5 points outside the playoff places. The comeback can't be on. Can it? Canaries call! What's that ugly mug doing there? Call, please. In a feat of engineering that would have Alexander Graham Bell himself purring, he wasn't a cat, Mustard has spared no expense to bring you, wait for it, a telephone number. 01603 630 006 is the studio hotline, straight to Dan Smith. Call it now and we might just patch you through to the studio for a live chat. How on earth did that happen? How did that Johnny Howson wonder volley not win goal of the month? To quote friend of the show, Chris Gorham, it was talked about as the greatest strike that Carrow Road had ever seen, and yet it apparently wasn't even the best goal against Nottingham Forest in February. Would you EFL believe it? And there we go. They are the headlines. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming in. Great to see you. Norwich won. It's the first time they've won a game in 7. Happy. I can't even bring myself to say that anything's back on, but how are we feeling about it?
Well, I don't want to keep saying it, but I did say before, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's just that there's something in my mind is thinking, if we miss out on the playoffs by a point, it seemed an awful time to kind of make that change when, honestly, I still think the squad is there to get themselves into the playoffs, and perhaps leaving Alex Neil in charge till the summer. You can still do the restructuring behind the scenes and make the changes in the summer, but was that really the time to do it? As much as I felt we had to go, perhaps 3 or 4 months ago, it just fills me with a little bit of dread, thinking perhaps it could have still happened.
And there's this bizarre bit where had Alec Neil not been sacked just before the Blackburn game, maybe that atmosphere would have been better and they'd have just done what they've done at home all season and won.
Well, it might have been worse as well.
Or it might have been worse.
The thing is, at the moment, nothing has really changed, has it? Alan Irvine worked under Alec Neil, and he's playing essentially the same team, same formation. Nothing has really changed so far. Both of those Blackburn and Barnsley games, we probably would have won anyway. They were the kind of games we were winning. It's away from home and against the sort of the top sides where something has to change.
Those games coming up, David. I mean, a little bit of optimism there?
Difficult. I was at Burton a few weeks ago, so trying to see a way around the corner it's hard to find. And when you've got to go to Leeds, you've got to go to Huddersfield, and these are teams that have built their promotion contendership on their home form. But I do think that with the change of ownership and the structure, if everyone's focusing on that can allow the playing staff to sort of just get on with their business and not get too caught up in the pressure of it. And if we can get on a result, then anything can happen.
Just in the back of my head as well, I know that team can beat anyone on their day, and that's what I'm thinking now. If they do pull off a couple of decent away results, all of a sudden they're right back in it.
We're getting lulled in. We can hear from Alan Irvine and Johnny Howson over on our YouTube channel, but I think we should catch up with the fans who were speaking after Saturday's game.
I've never seen it work. I'm yet to see a club where that's worked really successfully, in my opinion. So yeah, no.
So coming out of that game, 2-0 win, all very comfortable really. Playoffs only 5 points away now. Is it still within reach?
It's well, mathematically, yeah, but realistically, no. Not with the inconsistency in the team. I really can't see it happening.
So they've got teams to play who are above them at the moment. They can take points off. I mean,
you've seen someone from Falkirk this weekend as well. You obviously saw Sheffield Wednesday last night, but I can't see it with Norwich as well. I think they'll falter as well at some points.
So you're not happy with a 2-0 win at home?
I'm happy with it. I'm not saying that I'm not happy with it, but I'm saying we could have more, because if you look at the team, we're well set up for the league, and we should be up there with the top 6. We shouldn't be out of the top 6. There's no way that we shouldn't be not playing, if you know what I mean. We should be competing with Huddersfield. Not Huddersfield should be up there, but we should be up there with the Brightons and the Newcastles. We shouldn't be worrying about them. That should be...
But they're not. So what's that down to? Is that down to the manager that's gone? Should he have gone before?
I don't want to say after Newcastle, because Newcastle was a good result, 2-2 at home. But Newcastle were good played away, and they were great. And we didn't play too brilliant, but I want to be happy with that we took the 2-2, and I still think we should be pushing up their top 4.
I think it'd be important to get people in place before the transfer window opens, ideally. Yeah, certainly for next season. I think for this season, too little too late, I think. Trying to restructure to save this season. But yeah, next season I think we've got more than enough time to get into a position where we can push for playoff stroke promotion next season.
I'm not convinced by it, I think the board should make the decision, not a director of football should not make the main decisions. Really, that's too many people hired. That's just too many decisions come from different places, and I think you need a kind of central nucleus of what the decision making is.
I'll still come down to see him, but I think I don't think we can get promotion now. That's just my personal opinion.
Do you think the lad in the middle of all that was old enough to drink?
I wouldn't want to possibly speculate, Darren. Had he even been drinking?
Honestly, I was shocked at the kind of negativity of the whole director of football thing. I thought I'd find one person that thought it might be a good idea, but every single one I spoke to didn't have a really good word to say about it.
We've had a lot of edginess in the crowd the last 2 games, haven't we? And there were issues with Jacob Murphy, which people who followed me all week will know what they are. What is that about, Andy? I mean, is that going to exist now for the rest of the season? Because the structure was supposed to at least maybe engender a little bit of optimism around the place.
I think so. I think the expectation levels were such at the start of this season that the fact that we are now at 7th, 8th, there is going to be that anger. But for me, the director of football move is a really good idea. I think it makes perfect sense to have one person who's in charge of all football operations, if you want to use their term, and then one person who runs the club. The football club's too big and it does too many different things now for one person to be in charge of all of it. And it makes sense to me to go down this route.
My only concern is that director of football role, he's in charge of the football and makes all those decisions. It's not just his role. There's another probably 4 or 5, I think, that need to be underneath that. So they've got to get those in place as well. So I think there's a hell of a lot of restructuring that's going to need to be doing in the summer. Not just those specific 2 roles they're talking about now. There's a broad... You look at someone as successful as Southampton, they've got roles underneath all of those as well to make sure that they've done it right.
I mean, that structure they've been building for years and
years,
haven't they?
It's going to take years.
Well, it was the second Saturday on the spin that it was an early start at Carrow Road, as I got to speak to City Chairman Ed Balls and their new Managing Director, Steve Stone. You won't see a Chief Exec anymore, to talk about the new structure at Carrow Road.
We said a week ago when we announced the termination of Alex Neil that we'd be putting in place this week important structural changes, and that's what we've done at the end of the week before the game today. We are going to split the roles of the traditional chief executive. As a club, we've had one chief executive looking right across the business for a number of years, and last summer we decided to carry on with that as we moved quickly to try and strengthen things when David McNally left at the beginning of the transfer window. But with Jez Moxey moving on in January, we've stood back and said, let's take the time to really think through this structure and how modern football works. And the conclusion we've reached is that we neither want one person trying to run everything here at the football club, because the non-football side is now a big and complex financial business, but also we don't want to stick with the old way where the manager was really in charge of the whole football side, the academy, all the teams' recruitment. Because I think increasingly for a club like ours, people are seeing that recruitment task in a global football market is not something that you can do and run a football team at the same time.
Yeah, no, I'm very pleased to get this role. Having done the interim chief exec role twice now, it's nice to have the interim title removed and actually in a structure certainly that I think makes sense going forward. I think one of the big focuses, as I said before, is actually not so much the financial side, but is the fan side and how we engage with our fans and take them on the journey that we're just starting on now.
And that will be, as you say, a crucial part of your job then. You will basically be the chief communicator with the fans about the club, away from the football side of things?
Yeah, but clearly I'll know what's going on from the football side as well. I'm just not a technical football person, but in terms of understanding where we are from a financial point of view, what our plans are, where we are from a structure point of view, and what we're doing on a kind of just initiative basis with fans. I've met a fair few of the various different fans and fans groups, and I'm always keen to talk to people. You've got to balance it off with what time is allowed to do that, but certainly by splitting the role between the managing director and the sporting director, it allows me more time to focus on what I think is a critical area, because it's great everybody in the board knowing what we're doing going forward and believing it's the right thing for the club. We've got to be able to explain that to fans as well. And some fans will have a view on doing something differently. Of course they will, that's the point of football. But we've got to be able to tell people the worst thing we can do is not communicate anything. And so that's certainly what I see as a part of my role, a critical part, and actually a challenge, because we've got to move a significant way from where we've been in the last 6 months to a year, I would say.
Alex Neil's sacking seems to have been a bit of a domino, because we had vacancies pop up left, right and centre, and in that time Gary Rowett, Mark Warburton have both picked up other jobs. Was there any frustration in the fact that those things happened so quickly while you were trying to put other things in place before you even looked at who was going to be in charge of the team?
I think that there will have been some fans who were frustrated on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, and maybe they'll now see that we're trying to take a more long-term strategic approach for this football club, and that to have gone in quickly for a new old-style manager, or a manager before we'd sorted out the sporting director, would be to get things upside down, topsy-turvy, and would actually not work. So we're taking our time here, and we're not feeling frustrated. We think we've got the potential to bring in the right person for Norwich City, and we're going to do it in the right way. And so hopefully people will see why we've taken the approach we've taken.
I think Ed Balls kind of divides opinion a little bit. I enjoy talking to him, but it is, I imagine it's exactly what politicians and political journalists found talking to him. You're sort of sparring with him, trying to get something out. I mean, they're sort of a mixed opinion of fans, aren't there, of Ed Balls?
Yeah, I don't know. Every time I hear him speak, I don't know, I find it very hard to find anything to take with any credibility. He has no experience in football. He came into the club after a failed career in politics. And I know it sort of gave us sort of publicity because he's Ed Balls, but then I think it gave us sort of the wrong kind of publicity. When we were sort of languishing and having a really bad spell, he's on Strictly Come Dancing, and there didn't seem to be anyone making the decisions. And then he'll come out and say something like that, which is saying what you want to hear, but not necessarily I think he's actually got the foundation to back it up and make the decision in place.
Well, so not a mixed view in terms of David, then, maybe.
I think in Ed Balls' defence, who else are they going to put up in front of the cameras at the minute? Clearly the rest of the board don't do that.
But he was probably the best communicator out of them. Although, I mean, Steve Stone did speak very well, and where he's coming from in terms of the fans' communication.
Really pleased for him. I've met him a few times now, very level-headed, obviously knows his stuff. Works very, very hard. I think it's the perfect role for him, and I'm really pleased to see him get the opportunity, because I think he'll do a great job there. But we all know, doesn't matter what happens behind the scenes, does it? It's what happens on the football pitch. If it goes right on the football pitch, everything else behind the scenes takes care of itself.
Which will be partly the responsibility of the sporting director and the head coach. Yeah. Andy, how excited are you? You've written a piece about it and everything.
I am quite excited about it, yeah. And you're right, I have written a piece about it, which will be on Along Come Norwich tomorrow.
There you go.
You're welcome. I think it's a really, really good move. And yes, you can say that Ed Balls says a lot of the right words, and what actions do you see come out of that? But he has, or someone has made a decision here to get rid of Alex Neil and completely revamp the structure, and I think that's the right decision.
And we'll see at the right time as well, who will be the people that they bring in. That's the crux, especially with head coach.
Yeah, but with all of them, I think we all understand the structure of it. And if you do get it right, it is a really good way to run a football club, especially a team like Norwich. Again, I sort of draw that comparison with Southampton, similar-sized football clubs. It can work really well, but again, it all comes down to who those people are, who the manager is, and what players they get in.
And their relationships.
Yeah.
OK, let's bring you up to date with the Championship picture, shall we? Right now, it proved a productive weekend for City and for Leeds, who picked up an excellent home win against Brighton, and they still have hopes of breaking into the automatic promotion spots. Surprise defeats for Huddersfield, but especially Sheffield Wednesday and Fulham, means the playoff door is not entirely shut on those outside the top 6. Ipswich lost at Cardiff despite taking the lead, while Sergi Canos scored a brace in what was no doubt the game of the day as Brentford won at Burton. At the bottom, the survival task looks ever harder for Wigan, while Rotherham are already on the brink of relegation with 8 games to go. All of a sudden, Ipswich find themselves just 5 points off the bottom 3. And conversely, City now find themselves just 5 points off the top 6. And there are no games in hand to muddy the waters. City are 8th and will now play 6th of the sides alongside them in the top 9. They only have 8 games left this season, of course, once the final international break of the season plays out. Next up, it's a trip to Villa Park in a fortnight. I've kind of asked you this already. Dreams still alive? For City or for Leeds? Leeds, proper side, proper going, and they're a club that could do it.
Yeah, but in this stage of the season as well, if you are trailing by 5 or 6 points, the one thing you want is to be able to take teams off those ones above you. And if the best way to do that is to play them. You know, that can be a quick swing of points. If you're playing different teams and you're winning and they're playing other teams and still winning, nothing changes. But if you're actually playing them, it's up to you to give you that opportunity to take those points off them. And as soon as you do, everybody else in that top 6 will take note.
Which would be great for Norwich too, of course, I suppose. Ipswich in relegation trouble, really? Birmingham too. Talk about changes in.
It'd be nice to see, wouldn't it? Just a little bit of
a little bit of a
wobble. Look, I still, as much as you say that, I still love the derby games. You know, hopefully we go up, but if we stay down, you still want Ipswich to be there so we can beat them next year.
Yeah, I'd like them to stay up, but I think they are in a bit of trouble. I think that the announcement this week about season ticket prices going up there has gone down like a lead balloon, and I think the atmosphere at that club at the moment is more poisonous than it is here.
Let's have a quick look, shall we, at the Championship team of the season. As released by the EFL, the season hasn't finished yet. I mean, come on, David, this is silly time to release a team of the season, isn't it? We don't know who's going to go up yet.
Yeah, it's difficult to say. Like you said, this is the business end of the season. This last 8 games is going to tell who comes through. You don't know. Pritchard, who's been out of the team, can suddenly go on a storming run, score 10 goals, and suddenly he'd be the main contender. But when you look at the nucleus there, it's the teams who've got those sort of key foundations in place. You've got your Janssen and Bartley, you've got Dunk. Those are the ones who have those set centre defensive partnerships, your midfield partnerships. And that's what we've lacked all season, which is why I think we haven't really been able to push on at all.
Agree with that side?
That's a decent one, but even looking at that, though, it seemed that even at the whole side, I wouldn't probably take that over Norwich's squad.
Really?
Really? Maybe I'm just naive or stupid or what, I don't know. But I just
none of those, Darren.
Pure ability, I just think Norwich have got one of the strongest squads around.
Oh, we're back to the sad indictment of the season, aren't we, and the failure to compete. Right, that's part 1 put to bed. When we return, the floor is all yours as your calls, questions and comments get the Talk is Cheap treatment live. We'll see you in 3.
can't say that then, Michael, can we? Can't say that. No.
No, we can't say
okay.
that.
Right.
No, you're right. Right, the phones are firing and the tweets, calls and Norwich City comments have come in thick and fast. We have Darren Eadie, Andy Lord and Dave Warman here to talk about all the top things involving Norwich City. We've got a phone line for you to ring, which is, of course, 01603 63 0006. Yeah, that is what it says. Brilliant. So lots to get through. And I believe our first caller is on the line, which is Jamie Ward. Jamie, good evening. Thanks for ringing in. The floor is yours.
Good evening, guys. Okay, lots has happened with the club since I last came on this show. I honestly have no idea where to begin, really, apart from probably the managerial position, which obviously everybody's talking about. I've sat here at home and I've racked my brains for the last few days, spoken to people at work about it, and nobody seems to have a clear identity as who they want to take over next. There's obviously lots of names bandied about in the media recently. A lot of those names are not a fit for the club at all. I know Darren said last week he likes the thought of Alan Pardew, but we seriously can't see him coming to Norwich and sort of standing the sort of length of time, really. I can't see him being at the club for years upon years and building something. So the club is looking for something that's going to be for the long haul. And for me personally, it's going to be something maybe from the lower leagues again, or something that's up and coming again, and that's fine as long as it is the right sort of man. We are looking for another kind of Paul Lambert who's got a bit of pedigree within the game, who's had a great sort of playing career, been there and done it, and to bring that into the football club. Personally for myself, today I was thinking about like Mark Bowen, who's obviously worked alongside some big names in the past. I still working alongside Mark Hughes now. Has worked alongside Steve Bruce before in the past. Has been involved with the Welsh international setup as well. I think someone like him, he's a lot of experience there. I know it's gone down the untried and untested route again, but I think he has something to offer. Now, if he isn't ready for a managerial position now, then he never will be.
Jamie, I think you're right. I think they've got to go one of two ways. I think they've either got to go for someone who's going to be respected because they've played the game quite a bit, someone like a Mark Bowen, or they're going to stand up to and think, yeah, he's someone we can kind of associate with and appreciate and admire. Or they've got to go down that foreign route of that coach where it sits under that structure. I think a lower league manager is not going to get the best out of these players. That's my concern.
Will they be the same players come next season? I suppose is the other big question.
Perhaps not, but if they are, there's a big group of players there which I think need someone like a Wagner who's going to come in and do that type of job, or someone who's a bit of a name that they can get that respect from, who's been there and done it in the game. I think anyone else in between is going to find it just as difficult as Alex Neil's done to manage those players. Indeed.
And I've said this before since the whole structure came out, that the head coach title seems to open it up to someone who hasn't got experience of management, because it's a head coach. They'll have someone above them supervising them. But if it's Stuart Webber, which I'm almost certain it's going to be, and he's 34 years old, can you risk having Mark Bowen underneath who hasn't managed a group of players, which would still be his job?
Well, I'd much rather go down that route than the big name, because I think that a big name buys you a little bit of time. But if things start to go wrong, like if you're a Ryan Giggs, you get a little bit of time, but if things start to go wrong, you get found out quite quickly. Whereas with a young foreign guy like David Wagner coming in, I think that's really exciting. You mentioned today, Michael, Darryl Clark at Bristol Rovers, who works under this structure already there as head coach, has had lots of success the last 3 or 4 years. And I think we're going to go back to that sort of Paul Lambert route of getting in less known, hungry lower league players.
Let's be quite honest, it's all a risk, isn't it? Yeah. Whoever comes in is a risk.
You
doesn't matter which way you choose.
No, that is very true. Jamie, just then your thoughts as you're on the phone on the show in terms of when Norwich City's season is at this point. Because are you one of those who has a little bit back here that thinks, 5 points, 8 games?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, obviously Darren's sort of his glass is half full, same as himself really. You look at our remaining fixtures and. Yeah, okay, we can take points off those teams we've got coming up because they obviously are above us and then around us. But our form this season proves that we won't do that. So maybe getting rid of Alex Neil right now, maybe that was the right call. Maybe that does actually give us a chance with a fresh impetus and some new ideas from Alan Irvine to maybe buck that trend on the road this season and maybe surprise a few people in the last sort of 8 games and maybe pick up some results we didn't expect. And just maybe give ourselves a fighting chance. I mean, it would be a really bizarre situation to be in because in all honesty, we do not deserve to be top 6 this season. We have been poor. I mean, barring the odd flash result against like the likes of Forest and Brentford and picked up some decent results there, it hasn't been consistent, and that's been a real problem for us for the last 2 seasons. I mean, Alex Neil came in, did a great job, got promoted. Last season was a disaster in Premiership, and you can look back at this season and last, and the 2 key results really were away at Newcastle, and the team sort of crumbled, and we never found our way back for quite a length of time after those results. And I just think our transfer policy as well the last 2 seasons really has stunk. We've gone out and done what Norwich City don't usually do and spent big money, and I'm assuming big wages as well. And they're not players with heart for Norwich City, and it tells. It shows on that pitch. And I'll always hark back to Paul Lambert because he's the best manager I've ever seen. He's brought the most amazing times as a Norwich City fan that I've ever seen in my 20-odd years of supporting the club. And his transfer policy was so transparent. We knew exactly what he's bringing into the club. He knew what he's bringing to the club, what the players would do, what their beliefs were, how hard they'd work for Norwich City. It meant something to them players. Now, I have no problems with shopping in the lower leagues and not spending millions because all of my favourite players over the years, Ewan Roberts, Grant Holt, etc., they've all cost around £1 million. You didn't have to spend big money to get decent players through the door. And that's where we failed last 2 seasons, big time.
Wow, well done, Jamie. Well said. Thank you so much for your call.
Paul Lambert recruited on character in the Championship, didn't he?
Which is surely the hardest thing to judge. You can have all the stats you want. How do you judge someone's character?
By going to watch them and seeing them play and speaking to people rather than doing it on stats. That's how you go and do it. You send your scouts out, you speak to the right people, get to the right agents and speak to those people and say, look, what is his character like? Generally within football, people know everybody within football, and all the players have got a certain type of character, and other players, other agents, everybody knows what they are.
They love to talk. Don't forget, YouTube live chat. Get your messages in.
Any danger? Have we had any yet?
Yeah, Brett Harvey's been in touch. He posted one and then it says message retracted, which is a shame because I think it was quite a good one. So post it again, Brett. But he does touch on the links to Darryl Clark. Oh, it's been a long day. Darryl Clark at Bristol Rovers. And the fact that he does sit in that head coach role at Bristol Rovers would be a handy coming across and translating it to make sure everyone else gets used to the role, I suppose.
I think so, yeah. I think the key thing will be if it is Stuart Webber, who Stuart Webber wants, because that's going to be the key relationship, is Stuart Webber and the head coach. So I would go down the route of saying to Stuart Webber, who do you want, and going from there. But yeah, Darryl Clark for me is a really good candidate.
I think that's how I think it will be Webber that makes the choice, and I think just because he's gone Bundesliga way before, I think he will go that way again. I don't think he'll go English.
I think that's going to be the whole philosophy, isn't it? That you go in with this new model. I think the whole thing's going to be new. It'd be pointless to go with this sort of director and then go with a manager that we've heard about and a typical room. Like say, I think as soon as someone like that's linked, that rules out the likes of your Pardew's. I say McCarthy, not that we're going to get him, but that kind of old school manager who would want to do it all his own way.
Even British managers, I think it rules them out. I think if he's going to bring Webber, Webber's got a reputation of bringing in Wagner, but if he doesn't bring in someone like that and it's an English manager, people are going to go, hang on a sec.
It'll be interesting. That might be why he's been brought in. Darren, I think we've got another one of your former teammates on the phone.
Have we? Who?
Possibly. If you played with him, I'm sure you did.
Ian Culverhouse.
Ian Culverhouse.
The best right back I've ever played with, ever.
Absolutely. And current Kings Lynn Town manager.
And a very good tipper. I used to clean his boots.
Is that right? That's great to know. Ian is on the phone now. Ian, Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. How the devil are you?
Not bad. How are you?
Yeah, we're all very good. Thank you very much. So, Kings Lynn Town, you've been there a few weeks now. How are you settling in? How are you finding it? Because this is a big jump for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big club. It's a very big club. I mean, it's going to take some sorting out, but we're going to get there. And we're trying to build momentum for next year and give it a right good go next year. So it's exciting at the moment. Obviously, we got a bad result last night, but on the whole, it's been very, very good.
Yeah, a remarkable sight of, I think, 3 of your back 4 going off after about 40 minutes or something. Have you ever experienced anything like that before?
No, and the way we're trying to score goals at the moment, we only score from set plays. So losing them 3, they're our main goal scorers at the moment. So it was a long night, put it that way.
I reckon you can still do a job. Did you get your boots back on?
No, certainly not. Not with my limp now.
Do you build from the back, though, being a defender yourself and how great you were? I'm always interested to know when managers go into clubs. Do you build your structure from defensively?
Yeah, we try to keep compact. It's the reason for me to come in the way I did here was just to make sure that I can assess everyone at the football club. I mean, we've got some very, very good youngsters at the football club, so I'm giving them a chance to go into the first team setup and look at them for next year, because that's the way I want to go. I want to go with young, hungry players that can really drive the club forward. So it's really important that these young kids can handle the ball and handle the pressure playing against a lot stronger opposition.
I mean, Ian, this must, as I said, this must be a big sort of jump for you to become the main man now. Is this something you've always wanted to do, and is this something you now plan on, taking on in future? This is it, Ian Culverhouse, the manager.
Yes, I mean, I've been a number 2 for a long, long time, so it's been a long apprenticeship without putting my head above the parapet as such. But I've made a lot of decisions along the way that you don't really get the pressure for. So now it's the time for put my head where the mouth is, really, and stand up on my own 2 feet and just say, right, this is me. Can I go out and do it? And I've got good confidence and good contacts in the game that, I believe I can do it, and a lot of people do as well.
Actually, said playing with Cully as well, you play with certain types of players who you felt were always going to be managers later on in their lives, and Cully was certainly one of those. He's kind of those typical good pro, and I don't know if he probably appreciates that or not, but he was he was a stereotypical great pro. Looked after everybody, was great direction on the pitch, a leader. So he had all those attributes, and it was great to play with him.
I mean, we've obviously talked about Norwich's managers a lot in recent time. What's the key to being a good manager, Ian? What's the one thing you need to be able to do?
Luck.
Yeah, you need plenty of that on your side, but I think I think the modern day manager now has to have a little bit of everything. I mean, you look at the top managers now; they take most of the coaching sessions, and the management skills in dealing with these high pro players now are, is fantastic. So I think there's a little bit of everything. In my day, you just had a manager, and then you had a coach that coached. But these top managers now do a little bit of everything. So you've got to dip your toe in all areas, really.
Obviously, Ian, with you on the line, it's the Pink 'Un Show. We've got to ask you about Norwich City. What do you make of how they've been this season? And I mean, is it a missed opportunity? And of course, they're trying to restructure things now going forward, and the season's still in progress.
Yeah, do you fancy working under a sporting director? Or
that's the way they're going, isn't they? It's very continental, isn't it? And probably the German model that they've looked at there and seen the success of that. And I think they just want a head coach that concentrates solely on the coaching side of things and the first team squad, and letting the sporting director take care of everything else, the transfers and all the off the field matters. But it'd be interesting to see who they get. I mean, it will be an exciting time to see if the module works. It's had success in the past, and obviously just seeing if it can bring it to the English game now.
Ian, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I hope we get to do it again. And of course, good luck at the weekend with Lynn.
Yeah, if you need any help, give me a shout. Just on the end of the phone call.
Cha-ching.
Top man. Thanks ever so much. Bye-bye.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. There we go. We just about got this mic sorted. It's absolutely fine. Right, we've got we've got such a treat having Cully on the show.
Great
Absolutely chuffed with that.
Great
We've got plenty of messages on the old YouTube. So let's have a look at these. NCFC project. Do we think we deserve to go up? We sit here talking about the top 6.
No. In
How
all
good
honesty,
they are.
I don't think they do. And I think if they did, they would struggle big time in the Premier League with the squad they've got. But
I think they struggle in the playoffs.
Yeah, but you'd take it, wouldn't you? Of course you would. Take it any time you can. But do I think they deserve to go up this season? No, I don't.
I think it's been one of the worst seasons I can remember being a fan growing up. There's been so much disappointment there. And it's a weird one because I'm kind of waiting for the season to end, but at the same time, we're still almost in the running for promotion. Like Darren was saying, if we do go up, then there's a massive job on our hands anyway, let alone with a restructure while having to adapt to the Premier League. I think that could be all too much and blow up altogether. But of course you're going to take it if you get into the playoffs. But like I say, we've got to do something we haven't done this season and go and beat teams in the top 6 and do it regularly.
It almost could be one of the worst things to happen, couldn't it, if they did manage to get promoted? It's been like the eye's been taken off the ball so much that financially, where would they go? Who would they buy? What would they do?
Hull turned it around, didn't they?
Good problem to have, though, I suppose.
Good problem. Better that than what they'll probably have. All right, we've got our next phone caller on the line, which is Edward Lee. Edward, thank you so much for ringing in. What would you like to talk about?
So I was just going to talk about Mitchell Dykes, really, and some of the suggestions he's made on Instagram about possibly joining the club at the end of the season. He looks very, very interested in it.
Well, for those who haven't seen Edward, would you like to explain what he said and how he said it?
I haven't seen it.
He's been just liking a few of the fans' posts that said, oh, we want Mitchell Dykes to stay here, and he's been liking some of the posts they've put up saying, that Dykes is, going to come next year and they hope he stays and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
To be fair though, I'd like it. Doesn't mean you want to stay, does
it? This is an interesting debate, isn't it? Players on social media, they get to have all kinds of... I believe that Nelson Oliveira is now following Dougie Freedman on Instagram. Oh. Just saying. But no, it's the point, isn't it? Fans will read into any little like, and you can understand it.
Yeah, I think a lot of Norwich fans would take him if it was a done deal and we got him in at the end of the season. For me, I think he'll probably go somewhere else. I think a Premier League club will probably look at him when he's match fit if he doesn't go back to Ajax.
I think financially as well, I'm not sure the club could probably afford to keep him. I'm not sure what sort of dough he's on, but I'd imagine it's fairly hefty.
It's a massive coup for them to have him here in the first place would be the thing I would say. Edward, I mean, in terms of if it doesn't happen for Norwich City this season and they have to have a massive rebuild job, what would you like to see come out of the other side of that, Edward?
Well, you've got a massive job to do. I just really think we need to just get rid of all the deadwood and just really start to build this club back again. We've gone through a stage of bounce up and down, and it doesn't look like we're going to go up this season, so we need to change almost everything again and just try and build back to that Paul Lambert era.
Who's the deadwood, says Edward. Edward, thank you very much for ringing in. Much appreciated. We've got another one.
Just on that, that's one hell of a... I hear this a lot, talk about us getting rid of this deadwood and making sure we restructure. That's a lot of players to turn over.
Well, we've got Ryan Bennett, Sebastian Basson, Michael Turner all out of contract in the summer. So that's at least 2 centre-backs if you got rid of all 3. I think they'll keep hold of Ryan, but we'll see. David Vincent got in touch. Thank you very much, David, on the YouTube. If Barnsley had their shooting boots on, they would have beaten us. When you talk to the manager, or does this mean me, I think, ask why our promising players like Maddison and Godfrey don't get a game. We'd like to see more of them, wouldn't we? I haven't really seen one. We haven't seen more of Ben Godfrey, I must admit.
It does seem, since the Blackburn game, that seemed like a line in the sand and said, right, the season's over, let's blood some of the youngsters. But there must be a reason why they're not playing, and he obviously doesn't feel the season's dead yet, so he's playing what he sees as strongest 11 as.
Yeah, I think as well, sometimes when things are turbulent, it's not quite the right time to stick a youngster in because it can make them or break them. I think there's opportunities that have gone already this season when they should have used them and haven't, so I don't probably think it is quite the right time now.
If Wesley's going to be out for a few weeks, though, James Maddison may get more opportunity.
Yeah, you'd think so. I guess the strange thing with Maddison, that's a reflection of our transfer, problems, I would say, is that you've got this young player that everyone's been talking about, like he's a good prospect, but we've got 4 or 5 players vying for one position on the pitch. It's not like you can spread them across 2 or anything like that. So since he's come back in January, it would have been better off for him to stay at Aberdeen in hindsight, rather than having to stay out. And like we were saying earlier about playing young players in a toxic atmosphere or a negative atmosphere, that's what Jacob Murphy's encountered all season. Because on a personal haul, he scored 10 goals, he's in the England under-21 squad, but there's still people voicing concerns about him and berating him on the pitch, which is terrible for his development.
Doesn't help, indeed. We've got our final caller on the line, which I believe is Matt Ware. Matt, good evening to you. I hope you're very well. What would you like to talk about?
Evening, Michael. Well, I was... answered the question put out on Twitter earlier of, is the international break a good or a bad time for Norwich? And my answer was that it doesn't really make any difference. There's been other international breaks this season, and, nothing has changed after them. And I just think that we're probably going to continue in the same vein that we've been going through all season, which is probably not winning anywhere near enough games against the top teams to make any serious kind of challenge for the playoffs.
Yeah, it is a very sticky run that Norwich have got ahead of them.
I'll tell you what it does do, though. I mean, I don't know how many of our players have actually gone away on international duty this time. It seems to be falling by the wayside
not
quite
many
a bit.
now.
But it does. I remember when I went away, and Jacob will find the same going away with the under-21s. You come back really revigored and looking forward to the next game you play, and you kind of... It's a massive lift for you. So that will give him a huge boost to be involved with that.
What brilliant news that he's finally been called up for the 21s, because that was far too long in the running. Matt, you're quite vocal on Twitter. I like that. How do you see the club at the moment? Because it's going to be a huge summer coming up. What do they need to do? Lay it out.
Well, it's fairly straightforward, isn't it? They need to get the 2 key appointments right. They need to finally release some of these players who've been hanging around for a number of years and never really nailing down a guaranteed first choice place. People like Ryan Bennett, I mean, Seb Basson was a guaranteed first choice pick previously, both in the Premier League and the season we got promoted. Personally, I think he's much better than Ryan Bennett, but now he needs to move on. I think they need to get rid of some of the high earners like Stephen Naismith, who's just not done it on a consistent basis. So we talked previously in previous transfer windows about a clear out, but this time they actually have to really do it. They have to, I would include people like Graham Dorrans in that as well. I know he's not out of contract, but I just think some of these players, they're not young, they're not hungry. They may be, in theory, decent players, but they've just failed too many times now.
Matt, thank you so much for your call. Top stuff there. I just want to touch on a couple of quick points. Let's have a look at Scott Rayner. Why does everyone say Newcastle was a turning point? On our good run early on, we were playing mostly relegated threatened sides and weren't beating them comfortably at all. Dreadful all season. And the Fulham, half-time, 2-0 up. 2-2 is the one that
You'll go through this season looking at results like that endlessly.
One more. Brett Harvey, Darryl Clark. Cheap option or good appointment?
I think under the way we're going, I would take it as a good appointment.
Great appointment.
No.
There we go. That's it. What about that for timing, hey? That's us done for Talk is Cheap. A huge thank you for all your calls, tweets and comments, of course, on the YouTube. If you want to get involved in future, it's so simple. Just get in touch via the Pinkham message boards or drop us an email to sport@mustardtv.co.uk. And if you want to see it all over again, you can look up all of our Norwich City content on our Norfolk Now YouTube channel. That's it for part 2. The Pinkham Show returns after the break with a comeback from our season favourites and more City shenanigans live. We'll see you in 3.
And back to you.
Welcome back to you. You like doing that tonight, don't you? Well, welcome back to the final part of tonight's Pink & Show with me, with Darren Eadie, with Andy Lord, and with Dave Warman. Now, it's been a while since we had a fresh Fallon de Floor to enjoy. This is definitely not through a lack of willing participants, as you'll see over the coming weeks. It was more the fact producer Jake needed to take away his goalkeeping skills for a few weeks, sit in a quiet room, and think about what he'd done. Well, now he's back.
Hello and welcome to the Pink & Show's Fallon de Floor Challenge, where we are down at Goals in Norwich and doing it with a couple of their five-a-side teams. Ben, you're the manager of one of these teams up here. Just very quickly, what is the name of your team and how good are you?
Red Armadillos. Yeah. Playing on Thursday night and win the Premier League, and we're doing well so far.
You're all right.
More than all right.
More than all right. You're taking part in the Fallon de Floor Challenge today. What do you reckon the lads will be like at doing 10 spins and then trying to score past me?
It could be funny. I think they've got a chance. We'll see.
I think, you can see the goal behind us here, I've not done a goal like this before, and you're pretty close. If you're not scoring at least 3, then you're not good at football.
It's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be embarrassing.
Should we bring in our first player?
Let's bring in the first man.
Who is this?
With a wand of a right foot, George Mace, striker.
What's he like?
He's brilliant.
He's brilliant?
He's the main man.
That's all I need to hear. George, out you come. Yeah. Next in, please.
The ladies' man, Jack Piper, striker.
Anything else about him?
Good
Just
player.
a ladies' man. Ladies' man. Next.
James Wright, the playmaker of the team.
You like that one? Look, come on, don't be shy, boys.
Leak alone. No, all the gear, no idea.
Love it. And keeps. In you come.
The main man, Phil Webb, goalkeeper.
But can he actually play?
He tries.
That's enough for me. Very quick score prediction. How many do you reckon you'll get?
I think we'll get 4.
Super stuff. Right, let's go. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, offside! Right, they're definitely not going to be at the top. Right, so 3 scored past me in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. It's a pretty decent time.
It's not bad, it's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not bad, and actually really quite close.
It was good, it was good.
Yeah?
Very much.
You happy with the lads?
The last guy nearly tripped over his own feet on the last one.
Yeah. But guys, thank you ever so much for taking part.
No, thank you.
Wow. I mean, he's gone away and he's brought smaller goals.
If he
that
just,
was his plan.
And if
Literally, that's it.
Surely if he just led on the floor like that, it'd save more. I spotted Jack Piper in there.
Jack Piper.
Son of Kevin Piper, presenter extraordinaire from Anglia TV.
Top man, KP.
Yeah. Brother of Alice Piper. ITV,
All your friends.
Weather girl.
All Darren's friends. Do we need a cha-ching here? No, let's carry on. Okay, let's have a look at the leaderboard then. Let's see how it looks. I've kind of forgotten what it looks like, to be honest. Mustard at the bottom. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're still at the bottom. There we go. Red Armadillos. Definitely top prize for the best name.
I think Langley Football Academy need another go. Our under 15s today, hot off the press.
Yes, great news is
reached the school's final.
Proud of them?
National Cup final for the school. Yeah, first time someone from the county's got to a National Cup final with schools.
Which is great news. What isn't such good news is your heel.
Yeah, I should have my foot up really. I've got, what's it called, fasciitis or something on the old heel. It's not good.
Oh dear.
Needs a massage, Michael.
There are lots of jokes here that
needs a massage. Would you like to have a little?
No, put it away. Put it away.
Cool.
Norwich City bloggers doing Fell on the Floor challenge. We should make it happen. Right, if you fancy smashing some balls at producer Jake, I'm sorry, but time's up. The last of our Fell on the Floor challenges have been lined up for this season. Sorry, no bloggers. I was trying to get you in there, and they've already changed it. But if you want to get ahead of the game for next season,
I do.
All you have to do is email your details to sport@mustardtv.co.uk and we'll take care of the rest. So, of course, it's the international break. Stodgy football between mismatched nations and a manager's not good enough for club football, some would say. So we can spend a little more time now reflecting on how bizarre Norwich City have been this season, home and away.
So frustrating.
Great stuff there. I'm sure I've never asked you this question, Darren, before, but why can a team play so well at home and not away from home? Huh?
Especially when you get a manager that first come in couldn't lose away from home.
Is it really that random?
It's bizarre. It's football for you. Football, Michael.
Absolutely
well, we
nuts,
love it and hate it.
Interesting thing as well, we saw Tom Adeyemi on there as well. I mean, a lot of people talk about, Norwich City Academy hasn't really produced any players, although we've got the Murphys now. We've come up against a lot of former Norwich City players this season at Championship clubs.
Yeah, Chrissy Martin, another one. I think for me, it's almost as if they've been failed a little bit here. They haven't given them the opportunities long enough.
That bit at the end.
And I think if Norwich, because they did have success and got into the Premier League, their recruitment then looked to go for those names. And so those lads that probably would have got an opportunity were moved on. But you find that a lot. It's not just Norwich. Every single football club now has got decent youngsters. You tend to find they're going down the leagues before they come back up again.
It's true. Score update, international football, friendly football.
Who is it?
Germany 0, England 0.
Brilliant.
Is that still it's still just 0-0.
Brilliant.
So that's it. Jake's obviously pretending that Jamie Vardy's in on goal, but that's because he's a Leicester fan and he's still thinking about his goalkeeping. I mean, we could touch a little bit on the international, shall we? Because it's Ireland versus Wales, obviously. Robbie Brady's apparently had a stellar 12 months. Yeah. He said, I think he kind of maybe ignored the week-to-week stuff.
Well, the Robbie Brady who plays for Ireland
had a great 12 months.
Had a great 12 months, yeah. The Robbie Brady who played here, not so much.
What do we make of Scotland still using Russell Martin, Stephen Naismith? A bit of faith there.
They've got no one else.
Is that it?
I just think they've avoided options. We've got so many players that are like that sort of equal level and no breaks at the class. They got this Burt coming through who's at Leipzig who could potentially, but apart from that, they've not had a class player like Wales. Have got Ramsey and Bales. Scotland just have a lot of good players, but not great players.
Do we think Wales will continue their success? Or do you think
I think it's really difficult. I think Northern Ireland have found it difficult. They're almost like in a second seat, like a second campaign syndrome.
They're doing a Leicester.
Wow. But they're back on it now because they did.
Jake said then.
Jake, you can't hear Jake. Yeah. He's going off on one. 5 games in 17 days for Norwich now, and some really tough ones. Is this it? Have we made the most of this fortnight? Because we know that come Saturday they'll lose at Villa, and that'll be that.
Could be a
Saturday week.
Could be a great time though, couldn't it? It could be the best 2 or 3 weeks of Norwich's season.
Yeah, I think going back to that question earlier about whether or not we deserve to be promoted, right now we don't. But if these next 5 games we win, enough to get in the playoffs, then we do deserve to be.
Top 6, yes or no, Dave? Top 6?
No.
Andy?
No.
Darren?
Yeah.
Missing out by a point. We're done for tonight. If you missed any of the show, don't worry. It will all be available to watch on our Norfolk Now YouTube channel and repeated regularly on Mustard. It's very exciting.
Yes!
Very exciting. We'll be back again live from 7 p.m. next Wednesday
Yes!
on YouTube and on Mustard. But for now, a big thank you to Darren Eadie, Andy Lawn, Dave Warman, Ian Culverhouse on the phone, to all our callers, commenters and tweeters, as well as producer Jake, who wrote that, the Mustard team. And of course, a big thank you to all your good selves for watching. Until next week, here's to Gareth Southgate's distraction of Nathan Redmond proportions, whatever that means. Good night.